It's been another head-spinning 24 hours in the race for the White House, starting with a shocking announcement out of Houston last night. A grand jury convened by a Republican DA declined to indict Planned Parenthood after anti-abortion activists claim videos prove the organization illegally sold fetal tissue for profit. Instead, the grand jury indicted the two filmmakers for tampering with government records. One of the pair is also being charged with violating a ban on the purchase and sale of human organs. As you know, the videos have been center stage on the campaign trail. Joining me to talk about it are Andrea Cabral, she's a Democrat, former Massachusetts Public Safety Secretary, as well as former Suffolk County Sheriff and Hillary Clinton supporter. Nice to see you, Andrea. Yeah. Jennifer Braceras, a Republican and opinion editor at NewBostonPost.com. She's a supporter of Marco Rubio. Good to see you too, Jennifer.
You too.
So the GOP governor essentially wants a grand jury to go after Planned Parenthood. There's a total turnaround. This takes the steam out of the GOP screaming about Planned Parenthood, does it not?
No, not necessarily. I mean, you could argue that it's a runaway jury, and the things that these people were charged with, two charges. One is tampering with government documents, which is essentially creating a fake ID, like every 19 and 20-year-old at UMass has right now.
They're felonies. They're
right.
two felonies.
I understand that, but this is what it is. It's a fake ID. Okay, let's just be clear what the charge is. The second charge, seeking to purchase fetal tissue, does require intent. And clearly these people did not intend to purchase fetal tissue because it was a fraud. They were pretending to want to do that.
But you left out one piece. They also exonerated Planned Parenthood, the target of this grand jury investigation.
This particular grand jury decided that they did not want to indict Planned Parenthood. That is correct. That does not mean that what Planned Parenthood does is morally right and morally acceptable to traffic in the sale of fetal body parts.
What's your response to that?
That's not how it works.
What does that mean?
I've presented cases to the grand jury. You don't have a runaway grand jury. You present the facts to them and they make a choice as to who they want to indict and on what basis. And I think that the pivotal part of this, if you want to, whether you want to diminish it and say, well, all they really did was have a fake ID. Well, they went on, used those fake IDs to gain entrance to a building, further used them to get access so they could make the videotape, and then testified or had testimony presented before a congressional committee that was clearly a fraud and clearly was false. The fraud here went well beyond just using a fake ID. It went to the perpetration of the fraud about who Planned Parenthood is, and it takes the steam, as you said, out of the idea that they should be defunded for doing this.
Jennifer, has there been any forum, whether it's the grand jury or congressional hearings, has there been any forum that confirmed the allegations that the Republicans running for president have directed at Planned Parenthood? I couldn't find one. Is there one?
The forum or the videos themselves. Have you watched them? I've watched them all. And it's very clear that they are trafficking in the sale of fetal body parts. Now,
so why, if it's so clear to you, is it so not clear to a grand jury? I mean, what's that about?
Well, it's not clear. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. But clearly they were selling fetal body parts. I don't know what the intricacies of the specific law are that prohibit it. So I don't know what the elements are. But what I will say is that this is what they're doing, and it is morally wrong for Planned Parenthood to be doing it. As for the perpetrators of it, let me just be clear that there is in this country a long history of undercover journalism dating back to Upton Sinclair in the meatpacking industry.
To the Spotlight team that's featured in the movie.
Hunter S. Thompson with the Hells Angels.
And your point is what?
My point is, if you're uncovering evil doing or things that need to be exposed,
but those other reporters weren't indicted. I mean, is that not?
Well, if they broke the law,
and they're not reporters. Let's be clear about this. We're not talking about reporters. We're talking about people who work for a center that has an anti-choice agenda, and that's what they've put forward. And I also think it's kind of important to say that you believe that something is morally wrong does not excuse the commission of a crime. And grand jurors will indict on the barest of evidence. If that evidence had been put forward, even the slightest bit of evidence from the prosecutor's perspective that Planned Parenthood was at fault, they would have been found to be at fault by that grand jury.
I'm glad we resolved this issue. We got to move on. Let's stay on the GOP for a second. Here's the latest poll, the CNN ORC. Largest number for Donald Trump. I think he's up to 41. Largest lead nationally, too. I've heard you use the term civil war within the Republican Party. Does that mean there'll be no survivors, or what does that mean?
No, it doesn't mean there'll be no survivors. What it means is the Republican Party right now is at war between the anybody but Trump crowd and the anybody but Cruz crowd. And they are going to fight to the death. And meanwhile, I think it's interesting because Kasich and Rubio and a couple of the other candidates are quietly picking up steam while the war of words is going on between.
Kasich tied for number 2 in New Hampshire
Right.
with Cruz. So you don't think it's fatal? You just think so? What?
I don't think it's fatal to any of the other candidates.
So why
I
is
don't
it
know
any
if it'll
different
do-
from what went before? I mean, why is the consequence of this internal fighting any different from any other primary campaign?
It's just that the depth and the breadth of the hatred is so deep in a way that it's never been, I've never seen in my lifetime in politics. The people who are against Ted Cruz, and many of these people are people who share his conservative philosophy. The people who are against him hate him so much that many of them will vote for Hillary Clinton or stay home if he's the nominee.
I want to talk not about Cruz, but Donald Trump. David Axelrod, obviously key advisor forever to Barack Obama, it said in a New York Times piece, I should be ashamed of myself that I missed this whole Trump thing. The Trump phenomenon is a variation on the Obama phenomenon. And I'm, again, paraphrasing, saying what people want is something that the incumbent who's leaving office is not. It was a reaction to George W. Bush that helped elect Barack Obama. And he says this path that Trump has taken successfully so far is a reaction to what the public thinks, or at least a chunk of it thinks, Barack Obama is. You buying it or no?
Well, I think less than what you said. It's more of the public's desire to have a cult of personality. So what Barack Obama projected and reflected back to people was hope and change. What Donald Trump projects and reflects back to people is anger and bitterness.
Yeah, but Axelrod said the president patient and deliberate, exactly the things that Donald Trump are not. She doesn't buy it. Do you buy it or no?
A little bit.
I agree with that part of it.
Oh, you do?
Yeah,
Okay.
I do think that the electorate is reactionary in the sense that, after 8 years of one party, they tend to swing to the other party, and they tend to react in the same way towards people's personalities and go for different.
And Trump
types
is
of
the
candidates.
un-Obama, I think
Yes,
it's fair
however,
to say. All drama Trump
yeah.
as opposed to no
I
drama
would
Obama.
also argue that Trump is as much a creation of the media as anything else. And I cautioned back in July and August not to give this man a platform, not to pay too much attention to him. But every reporter under the sun went running, eating out of his hand to be in his graces and to have FaceTime with him. And I think that the media helped create the monster.
So to honor your directive, let's go to the Democratic side. Here's a question that a young guy in Iowa, Taylor Gipple, first-time caucus goer, leaning Sanders, asked Hillary Clinton last night.
It feels like there's a lot of young people like myself who are very passionate supporters of Bernie Sanders, and I just don't see the same enthusiasm from younger people for you. In fact, I've heard from quite a few people my age that they think you're dishonest, but I'd like to hear from you on why you feel the enthusiasm isn't there.
I don't want to speak to the dishonesty, but in terms of the enthusiasm, you've seen the poll numbers. Here they are, 18 to 24-year-olds, 68 to 21%, NBC News poll for Sanders. That is the Achilles heel of your candidate, is it not?
I don't actually think so, and
Why
I do
not?
think that there's an explanation here. So, if you're talking about millennials, and I'm not denigrating the importance of their vote, but you are talking about the generation of people who right at this very moment know the least that they will ever know in their lives about politics, about life experience, about success, about failure, and they are always, because they are young, looking for something new.
But they're allowed to vote regardless of
Right,
their limitations.
without a whole lot of detail. It is
Yeah.
only when you get older and you begin to experience life that you realize that the devil is in fact in the details. So it doesn't surprise me. I think the thing that surprises me most about Sanders is the difference in age, but it is not new in this country.
You mean between the two candidates?
No, the difference between him and
Oh,
his
I
age
see.
and the
Yeah, yeah.
millennials' age. It is not new in this country, whether you're talking about hippies or any other group of people, for young people to want something they perceive to be new and different, regardless of the ability of that thing to provide the type of
So you
government
just
that they
aged
need or
out of this
want.
group. You buy this explanation or no? And does
No.
it matter?
I have a theory about this. I believe that the American people always want the most dynamic candidate. They always want the most likable candidate. So a Reagan or an Obama, on the one hand, they're visionaries. They're dynamic. They speak in big themes. They speak to the heart of the American people. Forget about whether you agree with them. Then you have your beer candidates, as I call them. Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, maybe Chris Christie. They can talk to normal people. They feel your pain,
and?
okay? Hillary Clinton is a careerist. She's John Kerry. She's John McCain. She's the next in line. She may have the most experience. She bores people to tears.
On that note, Andrea Cabral, we got to go. I'm
She's
sorry.
the most qualified person in the history of this country to ever run for
I
the
knew you'd get
presidency.
that
And
in.
resumes
Jennifer,
don't win
you two
elections.
can continue. It's fine. I just
But
have to go ahead.
experience does.
There they are, Andrea Cabral, Jennifer Braceras.